So I grew up in Wolverhampton in the West Midlands. I laugh when you say, what did I want to be when I grow up? Because I wanted to be a wrestler was the first thing that I wanted to be when I grow up.
What does a day-to-day look like?
I run our regional sales team, our vertical sales team, our applications support team, a couple of other small areas of the business.
So what's the hardest part about managing these teams? Or managing people?
Oh, that's a good question. Change can be scary. With any sort of change, significant change, you're always going to have different groups of people, right? You're going to have people that are really ready for a change and will thrive in it. You'll have people that like the old way and don't want change, and you'll have people that will sort of reluctantly come on board eventually.
Yeah. What would people be surprised to know about you?
If someone said to me, what's a perfect day out? I think, well, go and throw yourself out of the plane in the morning, maybe go to the zoo in the afternoon, and that'd be a great day.
Huge thanks to this week's podcast sponsor, Stract. Every organisation has a strategy, but most struggle to turn it into action. Stract helps companies understand how to do that through coaching and training, helping companies achieve amazing levels of performance. If you want to learn more about Stract, the link's in the bio, please click through. Also, while you're here, huge thank you for supporting the channel. Please like and subscribe, it helps us grow.
Dan Ball, UK sales manager at Mitsubishi Electric. Been with the company for circa 8 months now. Yeah, that's me.
What does a day-to-day look like?
Well, it feels like it lasts longer than a day sometimes, but yeah, so I run our regional sales team, our vertical sales team, our applications support team, and a couple of other small areas of the business. So predominantly setting sales strategy for Mitsubishi Electric in the UK. And supporting those functions across into our sales team, from sales operation, business development, and other areas of the business. Okay,
so let's take us right back. Where did you grow up? What did you want to be when you were older?
So I grew up in Wolverhampton in the West Midlands. I laugh when you say, what did I want to be when I grow up? Because I wanted to be a wrestler was the first thing that I wanted to be when I grew up. And
WWE.
Yeah, my dad soon put a stop to that one in terms of saying, hey, come on, son, you're not going to be a wrestler. I was like, come on, I've got the body for it, clearly, you know. But it was quite funny because 3 miles from where I live was a guy called William Regal, who actually turned out to be a wrestler one day. And I remember when I was older saying, see, I told you it could be done. But no, once I got away from that childhood dream, I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I had no sort of calling of, you know, that's my vocation that I've got to go into. I didn't really know. You know, I went to university. I was always interested in technology. So I did IT at university, quickly realised that I wasn't overly technical. So that changed to business IT, and I enjoyed that piece of, okay, well, how does the technology benefit businesses, often commercially? And then, yeah, from there I went travelling when I finished university. I spent 6 months travelling the world, and I thought, okay, well, I better come back and start a career now.
Tell me about the travelling then. Yeah,
the travelling was great. I went with the intention of going out for 6 months. It only lasted for 5 because I ran out of cash. But yeah, we went to Hong Kong. Me and 3 friends. We went to Hong Kong, spent some weeks there. Then over to Australia, New Zealand, Canada. I finished off in the United States, and then came home from there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Any jobs around that time, or did you have jobs to save up to travel, or was you working on your travels?
Yeah, I'd always worked, whenever, you know, from my teenage years. My first ever job, I lasted 15 minutes before getting sacked.
Why?
I don't know if I should say on the camera. I didn't have an appropriate response. It was in the hospitality industry.
Yeah.
I was a waiter at a silver service golf club. Which, you know, for a working class guy from Wolverhampton probably wasn't the best fit anyway. But yeah, there was, I think someone said, oh, come and open this menu for me, boy. And I didn't have an appropriate response to his request, shall we say. But yeah, no, I then moved and I worked in, for a training company locally, doing everything from painting walls and odd jobs here in maintenance to helping out in the IT department, unscrewing laptops and computers and stuff. But yeah, I always worked to try and save up money.
So how did you end up in manufacturing?
So that was a bit of a journey actually, because I never set out with the intention of working in manufacturing. My first real job, when I got back, I thought, right, I just want to earn cash as quickly as possible. So I thought, sales, I think that's a good fit for me. And I remember going to, it was like a graduate recruitment type company, and they used to hold like this apprentice style days. So it was like a 2-day event. You'd start with 200 people in a room, and there'd be sort of breaks where they'd just whittle you down and be like, right, half of you were going, half of you were staying. And you do all these tasks from like building bridges out of matchsticks to answering quizzes and all these different scenarios, and actually ended up going through this process. And at the end of it, if you got to the end, they guaranteed you a job within the IT industry in sales. Got to the end, and 2 of the guest judges from the day said, listen, we'll guarantee you a job because we want you to come and work for us. So I was like, okay, great. So I went home, and Mum and Dad were like, how'd you get on? I was like, yeah, great, I'm moving to London in 3 weeks' time. They're like, really? So it all kind of happened really quickly. And I started my career doing a sales role in IT.
Selling software, or?
It was part of the channel in IT, so they were a value-added reseller, so it was selling hardware, software, solutions. I think that's where my sort of hunter mentality as a salesperson definitely started, because there was no, you arrive and, oh, here's your accounts, go and touch base with them, best of luck. You arrive with nothing, blank slate. You want customers, you go out and find them. The salary wasn't great, but the commission was incredible. So that's how they used to incentivize. So for a young guy at the time who was motivated to get on and do well and earn some money, it was great for me. So I did that for a number of years and sort of learnt my craft, so to speak, in terms of selling. And then some personal circumstances meant that we didn't want to live in London anymore. So I spent some time working for myself for circa 18 months, and then
doing what?
Let me say I'm not a technical, so I used to build web applications for companies. So it was back in the day where lots of companies were still using paper processes. It's like, hey, you should really be using some kind of software or a database or electronics to do that. So I used to take companies paperless. Effectively, I would build them CRM systems. I would build them intranets. I would build them all of these things that now you can get 10 a penny. You buy a piece of software, plug it in, it works. But in those days, they were built from scratch. But it wasn't me. I was a salesperson. I needed to get back into that world, and again, just sort of threw my hat out there, see what was out there, and ended up working for Keyence Corporation, who were in the OT space. Good fit for me, I think, because I've always joke even to this day, like I'm the real life IT/OT convergence, and having that knowledge of sort of both sides of the fence, certainly at the time I came into the industry, was really quite useful, because actually there were many people at that time in those early days that really understood. Yeah, they understood the OT piece very, very well, but had no clue. And, all these years later, it's still not that common to find people that have strong knowledge of both sides.
So we might as well carry on that journey then. Keyence and then Rockwell?
Yeah, Keyence and Rockwell. So I spent a few years at Keyence working in the laser marking division, which was a new division for the company at the time. I always think about your career as almost taking ingredients for your recipe of future success from each job. And I spoke about my first job, really learning that sort of hunter mentality. Keyence was a great breeding ground for understanding the meaning of hard work, the power of data, and applying some logic to your approach in terms of sales. Opportunity came up at Rockwell. For me was quite a pivotal moment in my life, my career, and I was looking for sort of progression, somewhere that I could, I always call the company you work for the vehicle that you're in. I wanted to be in a vehicle that I thought, I can travel pretty far down the road on this one. Again, sort of moving up in the layers from sort of sensors and instrumentation up to looking at system-wide in the OT space, and moving to Rockwell was a great opportunity for me. And my manager at the time, who became a mentor to me, sort of really took me under his wing, and I joined really thinking of the long term rather than it's just another job.
Yep.
This was the place I really wanted to go to grow my career.
Yeah, you mentioned a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
How was he a mentor? Because we talk about mentors on most of the podcasts, and some people don't know what a mentor is, or they've got a list of people that have helped them in every position they've been in.
Yeah.
What was a mentor to you?
I think mentor's an interesting term, actually, because a mentor's a different thing to different people. I actually use the term a lot, your personal board of directors. And they don't always have to be internal. They could be family, could be friends, could be external people to the company, but you need people in your life that you can learn from. And it's that learning piece that's the most important. Mentor's not somebody that tells you how to do something. Mentor's somebody who teaches you how to do something. And I think that's a really big differentiation for me. In that particular instance, I think he taught me a lot, notably later in my career in terms of going into management especially. Many of his values I still hold true to this day, but you learn lots from lots of different mentors. It's not just one person, it's several people, and sort of absorbing as much from them as you can.
What's the best piece of advice you picked up along the way?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd probably say that the biggest piece of advice I ever got is that your development and your growth, you own it.
Yeah.
It's
don't
not,
rely on someone else.
Yeah, it's not enough to just keep doing a good job and think that one day you're going to get a knock on the door and someone will say, hey, would you like a promotion, or would you like some progression, or would you like to do this? You've got to own your own development, and actually it's really important to not wait for opportunity to knock, but go and find it.
Yeah, totally agree. It's we had a guest on this morning that he was a head teacher for how many years, and now he's Design and Technology Association, and we spoke about that, about the difference between generations and the drive and the motivation of people. He was very supportive of actually that young people get a bad rep, but it does feel like, I'm going to get the bad rep now, but young people expect it to be given, whereas when they're in the real world, it's not. It really isn't. It's quite the opposite. If you're not at the forefront grabbing it yourself, you're not going anywhere.
I think it's indicative of society. We all fall victim to it, not just young people. Everybody expects things, immediately now. I mean, I'm the worst for it. I don't watch television with adverts anymore because that's just unacceptable to me. I want to be able to skip adverts. I want to be able to watch my TV series one after another. I want it now. I don't want to wait a week between episodes. It's just the way the world is. But in terms of your career, everybody always thinks of their career as kind of linear. It's a straight line. I'm just going to keep going up. But actually, it's not. And I've said this to a few people recently. Actually, your career is more of a staircase. First thing you've got to do in any job is smash your current job, and then ask for more responsibility. And when you find those opportunities, demand more from your employer to say, look, I am showing you that I can smash my current job. Give me some more responsibility. And actually, people who have that desire to want to get on, they thrive on responsibility, thrive on accountability, take that on, and then continue smashing your current job whilst taking on that additional responsibility. People have got no choice than to think, hey, got to do something here for this person and help them progress.
Is there anything on your staircase that was like a turning point?
Yeah. Actually, for me, probably one of the low points of my career was immediately followed by one of the high points. So, I think when I was at Rockwell, I was doing a good job as an account manager. I was hitting my number, but I remember going into a performance review, and I got a young child at home at the time. Maybe I was just all tired at the time, but what my boss said to me at the time, hey, you've lost your spark. And that was really quite impactful to me, because I am that high energy person that wants to, I don't want to be seen as anything other than, you're working hard, doing a good job. And that hit me quite hard. And I come away from my review feeling quite down about it. But then I thought, okay, well, how do I turn that around? What am I going to do to put my name in lights again? You know, how am I going to turn this thing around? And ended up going to explore what was out there opportunity-wise at the company at Rockwell where I was working at the time. To cut a very long story short, ultimately found myself taking part in a global competition for innovation. So I got this great idea, found this thing. No one in the UK really knew about it or had taken part in any significant way in the past. And I just kind of went down the rabbit hole, and it just kind of spiraled. And next thing I knew, I was leading a team across Europe for this idea, entering into a challenge, and 6 months later I was flying out to Milwaukee to present the idea to the board in headquarters. And it was kind of one of those moments in your career you look back on and think, that got me networking wise in front of so many different people. And ultimately later in my career at Rockwell, my last job before I left, I actually went from taking part in those innovation programs to running them. And I actually had a full-time job working out of Milwaukee in the innovation department.
But did you throw yourself into that competition because you were sad or because you wanted to prove someone wrong?
I don't think it's necessarily proving someone wrong. I think I needed to prove to myself, more importantly.
Yeah.
You know, self-drive's the biggest motivator. And I think for me it was a case of recognising that perhaps, you know, I was just maintaining that good, but good's not good enough. You know, if I really want to progress, I really want to go on, I really want to do something here, then how am I going to do something different? How am I going to yearn for more? Yeah. And that was the opportunity. As I say, don't wait for opportunity to knock. Sometimes you have to go looking for it. And, you know, I could have done that. It might not have been a good thing, and I'd have looked for something else. But, you know, throughout my time as an account manager when I was at Rockwell, I was always looking for additional things that I could do. Give me more responsibility. Give me more things to do. You know, whether it was running roadshow events on behalf of the team, I'd be like, I'll take that, I'll organise that. Or it might be, hey, I'm going to evaluate a certain industry and I want to present my findings to the European leader. You know, I always look for these additional things. No one asking you to do them, but give it to me. I want to do it. I think, it's that piece of that human desire to want to win. Is it Ty Lopez always says there's three types of people. There's those that make it happen. There's those that watch it happen, and there's those that say, "Oh, what just happened?" Right? And I wanted to be one of those people that make it happen. If you're a make it happen kind of person, you just go and look for those opportunities.
Where does that stem from?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think it's partly me. It's my personality. I chuckled to myself when you said you want to prove it to someone else, because there probably is a part of that in me. Well, my wife would tell you the worst thing you can say to me is that I can't do something, because I'll just deliberately make my mission to go and try to do it then just to prove a point. I think it's just the way I'm wired, to be honest with you, Tom.
That's a fair enough answer.
Yeah.
So, talk me through leaving Rockwell then, because you got to a very senior position, very highly respected in Rockwell, reported to the board, and then what drove the change?
Yeah, you know what, I don't mind sharing with you, it was extremely difficult for me to leave Rockwell. You know, I'd had a really wonderful career there. You know, my career fairly quickly had gone good places, and you know, I could have potentially have stayed there for the rest of my career, and I'm sure I would have continued to find opportunities. But it's one of those scenarios that something sort of crossed my desk, and the opportunity was just one that was like, that's me, that's what I want. I enjoyed my innovation role immensely at Rockwell, and met some fantastic people, did some work I was really proud of, you know, gained another fantastic mentor in my boss at the time, and it was a really good time in my career. But again, I was out of that selling environment, you know, and when I keep coming back to it, that is where I am happiest. And I think this opportunity came along with all of the right ingredients where I thought, yeah, that's the one for me. And again, you talk about being in the right vehicle. That's the right vehicle for me now, and somewhere where I can continue to build my career for the benefit of me and the company.
Yeah. Did family life affect decisions? Are you travelling quite a bit?
Yeah. Still travel quite a bit now.
Yeah.
Just more in the car and not on an aeroplane.
Well, that was it, yeah.
But
at least you're in the UK.
Yeah, look, work-life balance is important. I've got an incredibly supportive wife at home. It is a challenge now, but because we live in South Wales, so and when I say South Wales, really far into South Wales, which makes it an additional challenge in terms of travel. But I think again, it's having that balance, but having that support network as well. It was what was right for me, what was right for the family, and we went down the rabbit hole again.
And personally, what's the hardest challenge you've faced?
I think it's time away from the kids, from a personal perspective. I think in where I am now in my career, I'm probably never going to have a job that is 9 to 5, and I'm back at home, and during the week I see lots of the kids. It's just getting that balance right. Small things like potentially, do we look to move to a more central location? Originally from Wolverhampton, do we move back there? Would that make things a little bit easier in terms of travel commitments? But we're a good supportive unit. We are a collective as a family, and it's prioritising that time at the weekend. When we do have time at the weekend, we spend good quality time. 8 and 6.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So at the age where they know.
Yeah.
They know that you're not there.
Yeah. It's
Whereas
tough.
my little one doesn't have a clue.
It's tough. Like my youngest, bless her, on a Sunday sometimes, if I've got an early meeting on a Monday, I might go down on a Sunday night, for example. She's like, what do you mean you're going again? And tears in her eyes, and I don't want you to go. But but in some ways I do think it's important for them to see and understand that, that's what you have to do as a grown up. Unfortunately, it's not all about having fun all the while and doing amazing things. Work's an important part of life.
What is Engineers Insight? So Engineers Insight is a free mobile app for engineers to have access to industry 24/7 from your phone. So I worked in manufacturing for 12, 13 years, got really frustrated with relying on print to find the latest technologies. So we came up with this newsfeed concept of all the latest products with the manuals, the application videos, CAD files, brochures. You can send inquiries, you can bookmark stuff, so you're not saving on your laptop and it goes obsolete every time a firmware changes. Now there's jobs, so it gets updated every week. You can search keywords, you can search distances from postcodes, and you can apply. You just attach a CV from the files in your phone. And then the next one that's coming is training. So if all goes well, 2025 we'll be launching a central training calendar with the MTC training to allow an engineer to have access to everyone's training courses in one place. So you could book a robot course from any of the big vendors, a PLC course from any of the big vendors, multiple other vendors involved, and then you only raise one PO. So I think that's the quickest overview of Engineers Insight I could give. What about career then? Mm-hmm. What's the most difficult thing you've faced?
I think for me, probably when I went into more senior roles, particularly the innovation role, your stakeholders are very, very different. So when you're effectively spending cash of senior leaders, there's a different sort of pressure, there's a different sort of due diligence that you have to do around things, and navigating some of that was different. It's not sales. Sales is an environment I'm very comfortable with. I knew what I was working with there, but some of that innovation role was very, very different. And because it's innovation, it's groundbreaking, it could be not new, not just to me, but to the company as well. Whether it's blockchain or AI or some of these just don't exist, and they're looking to you to be the person to kind of figure it all out. So it was a challenging environment, but learned an incredible amount for me personally and professionally. And as I say, having good mentors and a good team around you was really important.
So you're now in Mitsubishi Electric.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be longer than 8 months, maybe 10 months at least. Mm-hmm. How was it? How How was the first day?
Well, it's interesting. My first day, it was the normal thing. You arrive, you pick up your phone, your laptop, etc., etc. Day 2, I was on a plane to Germany. Right. So it was straight in at the deep end. And it was like, oh yeah, and by the way, when you're there, we'd like to give you a short presentation if you can to the leaders out there. So it was a baptism of fire, straight away. But look, as coming into any new company, when you're a leader, you're still onboarding yourself whilst trying to onboard your own culture and your own methodologies. Can be an additional challenge. So those opening months are always tough, but great environment, great people, great company, great culture. All of those things help to make that transition easier, I think.
Yeah. Let's go into the onboarding bit then, because you've got your own style of management, leadership. How is it going into a new company and trying to lay them foundations in a business?
Yeah, I think, look, with any sort of change, significant change, you're always going to have different groups of people, right? You're going to have people that are really ready for a change and will thrive in it. You'll have people that like the old way and don't want change, and you'll have people that will sort of reluctantly come on board eventually. Change can be scary, for anybody in any environment, but it's also a good thing. And actually, Mitsubishi, I'm not saying there need to be drastic, huge, swathing changes, but whenever there's a change of management or leadership at the top, of course, it's always going to be a different environment that folks are used to. So I think the important thing early doors is getting the culture piece right. And for me, running high-performing sales teams, culture and accountability are your two most important things. Because if you've got a bad culture, people aren't going to thrive in that. And if people don't understand where they're accountable, then it becomes difficult to drive
results. What does a good
results.
culture look like?
I think it's a culture where you can do your best work, but more importantly, want to do your best work. That's what strong culture is. We've spoken already about that human desire to want to do more, to want to win, to want to go and sell. If you're in a culture where you don't really want to do that, you'll do the bare minimum to kind of get by and keep people off your back. You're never going to create high performance in that sort of environment. So culture is a balance of lots of different things, but ultimately it's making an environment where people can and want to do their best work.
So what's the hardest part about managing these teams? Or managing people?
The fact that they're people. There is no magic formula that's going to work for everybody. Lots of people say before they are people, I want to be a people manager one day. But actually, when you get there, it's not for everybody. It comes with its own challenges. Things that happen in the business, things that happen in people's personal lives. Yeah. It's important that you have to support them in both aspects. I'm really big on people development, people first culture. It's giving people, I want you to do well today, but we want you to stay here, build a career and thrive in the future. Yeah. I think everybody in the industry is looking to retain their best talent, and we don't have an abundance of talent in our industry as well. So that's actually really important that you create that environment that people think, I can see myself building a career here.
Yeah, but sadly, I mean, leaders forget that. Leaders forget that they're people, and they manage by spreadsheet, and they don't ask the questions about the person and their life. What the sales numbers might not be down because they're a shit salesperson, but because they've got other things going on that's affecting them. But people don't ask that question. I think that gets overlooked a lot by management. I've worked at some big places in the past that you do feel like a number, and not a person. Yeah,
I think that's more common than you'd like to think in not just our industry but any industry. We've probably all worked in those environments in the past. Yep. I think for me, despite my hairline suggests I'm relatively young, I know what it's like to have been a salesperson. I've been in those shoes in recently, and I know the things that mattered to me and that were important to me at the time. So I try to reflect those now as a leader, as a manager, with my people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think with any job, it's a balance of three things. It's your remuneration, it's your job satisfaction, and it's your future prospects. And actually what you'll find is you can have an extreme of any one of those three and people will be happy. So if I said to you, I'm going to flick you in the head constantly, all day, every day, that's going to be your job, but I'm going to pay you £10 million a week to do it, you'd probably put up with it for a short time and think, you know what, you don't care about the longevity, you don't care about the satisfaction, you'll put up with it. Or, you know, some people take jobs and think, yeah, it's not what I enjoy, or it's not great, but it could lead to something amazing in the future. So, but you don't really want those extremes. What you want is a nice balance of all three. And again, that's when you have strong culture, is when you feel that people are recognised and rewarded, and that's not always monetary, but recognition and reward is important, that they're happy in their work and that they're happy with the job they're being asked to do and the environment they're in, and again, that they feel that there's a future and that it's going somewhere and it's purpose. And if you can kind of nail those three things, then that's the place that you kind of want to be.
Yeah. So what principles do you hold people to? You know, imagine you're hiring a new salesperson. What are you looking for?
Always hire an attitude primarily. Yes, of course, there needs to be experience there, but having that desire to want to get out there and do a good job, attitude's important. I think when you're putting together a team, again, there is no sort of secret sauce. You don't want a team of robots that are all going to be exactly the same, and you know, you're going to do this at this time in this way, in this manner. You know, the people at the end of the day, everyone's going to have their own individual styles, and I think we operate, or try to operate, a culture where if you set really clear goals and objectives and strategies, so everyone knows the North Star you're aiming for, and then empower the people. So you hire the right people to do the right job, let them go and do their job. But then the back end is accountability. They've got to know what they're accountable for. And actually, in a good sales team, the right people, they thrive on accountability.
Yeah.
They want it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if you have that piece right, so the front end, the strategy, the back end, the accountability, as much as you can, give them autonomy and empowerment to go and do their job effectively.
I always ask this scenario of guests. But imagine you're stood in front of a classroom of the next generation of engineers. What advice would you give them?
That's a great question. I think I'd come back to that piece again because I wish someone had told me that early doors, is own your own development and progression. Decide what you want out of your job, out of your life, and just go after it and go and get it. Worst that happens is you fall short. You know, pick yourself up, you dust yourself down, and you go again. I think our industry is a fantastic place for people to build a career. You know, we've spoken briefly about my history. I'm not an engineer, but you know, there's almost that assumption that, well, if you work in that space, you've got to be an engineer. Well, it's not true. And I think so much of what we do, from the food you eat, the water that comes out your tap, the cars you drive, the phone that you use, everything comes back to manufacturing somewhere. And I think you're at the forefront of technology. There are loads and loads of positives about working in our industry. It's a great space for people, particularly people who are technology focused, as many young people are these days. It's a good industry for them to get into, and there are abundance of opportunity out there for people that have that desire.
There is,
and want to get on.
There is. If you were sat in my chair, what question would you ask Dan Bull?
I would probably ask myself, why have you stayed in manufacturing? Because, as I said before, I'm not an engineer. It's not a natural space. I didn't grow up, you know, I'm not that person that says, you know, I was always making things, I was really interested in how things work. That's not me. You know, I'm not an engineer. So I think, well, why am I so comfortable and so happy in this space? I ask myself that question, and I don't really know how I'd answer it. But I think immediately I'd go to what's the toughest question I could ask myself, and it's probably that. I think it comes back to what I just said of what you'd say to young kids. Yeah. I think it's that abundance of opportunity that's there. I like the exciting fact we don't really know what the future looks like. Yeah. You know, I think in our industry in 20 years' time is going to look wholly different again. You know, you look at advancements now in AI, then it was digital transformation before that, robotics before that, automation. There's all of these trends that sort of come along. Some of them stick and ramp up, others, you know, perhaps don't, but we don't really know what the future of manufacturing is going to look like, but I kind of want to stick around and find out.
What would people be surprised to know about you?
Would people be surprised to know about me?
Not that you're a Wolves fan.
I don't think that would surprise many people, in fairness. Would people be surprised to know about me? That I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie. So 2 skydives, 2 bungee jumps to my name. Yeah. That's if someone said to me, "What's the perfect day out?" I think, "Well, go and throw yourself out of a plane in the morning, maybe go to the zoo in the afternoon, and that'd be a great day."
Okay. Do you consider yourself successful?
Oh, good question. Yes and no. I think that's a relative question. What does success look like to anybody? I think I'm naturally one of those people I'm always, okay, well, if you achieve something, I'm not right, well, it's feet up time now and we're all good. It's okay, well, what's my next achievement going to be? So also I think, yeah, you could argue relatively successful, yeah, but I'm not done yet.
And the success that you've had, would you attribute to hard work or luck?
I think hard work's really important. You have to work hard. Nothing's going to be gifted to you in this life. Hard work's imperative. I have a bit of a strange relationship with the concept of luck. I think to some degree, you create your own luck. I prefer the term courage rather than luck, because actually there are lots of opportunities out there, and sometimes you just have to have the courage to just go and try these things. And I think people look back and think, oh yeah, that was really lucky there, but did you put yourself in the right environment to generate that opportunity? Yeah, you probably can. Of course, there's raw luck where you could hit the lottery tomorrow, and that's a different kind of luck. But I think in terms of career, I think a big element of luck is putting yourself out there and putting yourself in an environment where luck can find you.
Yeah, totally agree. That's it. You can relax.
Perfect.
All done. Really appreciate it, Dan. Thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome.
Cheers.